All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So I call this meeting to order at 3:05 p.m. Suki, can you please do roll call?
Yes. Ms. Balderota.
Here.
Ms. Balahi.
Here.
Mr. Kleiss.
Here.
Ms. Marlin.
Here.
Mr. Miles.
Here.
Mr. Shuddy.
Here.
Mr. Curlin.
Is that how many? That was 6.
Was he the?
Okay, so with
Crap.
6 in attendance, we do have a quorum. Okay, so are there any changes to the agenda?
I wanted to, I don't think we made a final advisement based for Leslie's issue last week. I was wondering if we could add that for, have some kind of advisement about the moving stuff.
I'm down. Do we have an agenda? This is it?
Yes.
Oh, there's no topics.
You got it?
Good.
Okay. The chair,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. I think today that we should actually just stick to the new business at hand, which is a strategic plan update, and focus on that, since that's what this meeting was called for in the first place. So.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. If he comes, I can stay.
We'll get another chair. Go ahead and sit down.
Thanks.
You sit on my lap, Leslie. That was baby, so.
Leslie, here we go.
You're on there in the box, David.
Okay, so it seems that there is public input today, so I would like to remind the group of the rules of order for public comment. Public comments and questions shall be limited to 5 minutes and directed to the advisory board and not to individual members. Comments and questions shall be presented in a professional demeanor and not in threatening, profane, or vulgar or abusive manner. Each individual requesting an opportunity to make public comment or ask a question shall provide their name and address to the chair prior to addressing the board. And at the end of the 5 minutes, if the individual needs more time, it can be requested through a motion by a board member, so long as it receives a second. Okay, so go ahead, go over like this again.
You guys can, whoever didn't get these, it might be, let's see, what's the one? There's a map for people's reference and plan. So my public comment will be to, hopefully you guys can address this issue at today's meeting because next week's the first market. And so I guess I'll just read it out loud and you guys can stop me if you have any questions. So this is a vendor placement that is consistent with goals 1 through 7 of your proposed strategic plan. The strategy below allows the market to expand and contract with changing market conditions and preserves and increases the number of local farmers succeeding at the market by creating dense areas of vendor type. So the strategy would be to populate the north side, the west side, and the south rows with farmers to provide customers with easy access to food. And those are kind of the big areas that people move through fast, and that's what has been historically there. And then start populating rows 2, 3, and forward 4 with farmers, meat producers, flowers, plants, and bakers as needed, with rows 2 and 3 expanding out towards rows 4 and 5 when necessary, and shrinking back towards row 2 when necessary. So it's going to kind of breathe outward, and then if you have to shrink, you shrink this way.
Eastward, it expands eastward.
Right, east and west to the outside, so you don't have any big holes that you were worried about, Natalie. And then create home rows for vendors that allow you, let's say you have somebody out of, you've lost a vendor in row 3 and you can't fill it, and you're worried about a hole there, just kind of move everybody in. And again, to avoid this look that you're concerned about. and try not to move vendors out of their home rows without their consent. If we have to shrink so many spots this year, let's move row 5, the city groups or whatever, community groups, in one row, and expand that area where all those food trucks are, and that be the area where people gather, hang out. You have demonstrations, meaning cooking demonstrations, and so forth. And that's the main area that people congest, so to speak. And then change the system so that if a vendor does need to move and you can't find a solution and you want to move them, bring it to the board. Make it a board decision, rather than taking someone that's been there 5, 6, 7 years, has built a business in an area, and pushing them out. And I forgot to add this one thing. Add seniority in the process. Let's say Blue Moon Farm leaves the market and you have 5 spots. Who goes there? And there's no process. Vendors don't know how that process works. So set it up so that maybe it's seniority for those types of vendors. So somebody's been here 7 years and they're back, and you can move them forward because they've been there the longest. And I think by doing this, we'll enhance the shopping experience for customers who want to get in there. As vendors, we hear lots of complaints, of trying to move through all the traffic, all the other things that they're really not looking for, and allow them to shop. And I think we'll get back a lot of those vendors. Opening up where you guys are moving out of that parking area, I think that's going to really help as well. New producers aren't going to be stranded like Shea experienced, stuck in row 4 or 5 where no one ever goes by, and it's really hard for them to get started. So when we want new vendors, when we can absorb new vendors, we put them up with the other food vendors, and they get a chance to succeed. So also, I think it'll provide an obvious social place for customers who want to eat social food or eat some food at the market, etc., socialize, demonstrate. And I think it'll create a better environment for crafts. I know there's always been this discussion of, do we integrate or segregate, so to speak, with that. And I think actually it'll help crafts and those people, because people will be looking for those items, and they'll know that they're going down there, and they won't just be rushing through, and it'll allow people more time to look, etc., etc., and won't create congestion there as well. So I think if we restructure the market this way this year, we won't really upset the apple cart, and we can start moving vendors. I know like Sola Grazia and Sell Them Home and all these, there's a bunch of places I was scanning through the map, and they're just stuck out there. And if we try to move them forward and populate those other areas, I bet you they'll be willing to move. And if they're not, great. That's the way it goes, and slowly we move forward, and we don't upset full-time businesses that have really devoted their livelihoods and have employees, etc., to market turns, unnecessary market turns. So that's
Been
it.
5 minutes, thank you. Did you want to comment?
John and I have been discussing this plan. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Can you please state?
Oh,
your
I'm sorry,
name?
Leslie Cooperban from Prairie Fruits Farm and Creamery. I think that this is a really great attempt to finally have some rationale behind placement and address the concerns that those of us who produce food for people who want to shop for their week's groceries can easily find what they want and have that kind of experience. The market serves many customers, many types of customers, from people that just want to come and eat some breakfast and hang out, to the people that go there for their week's groceries. And as a food producer, my primary clientele are those who are there to shop for their week's groceries, and I want to make it as easy as possible for them to find all of us. So I think this plan makes a lot of sense. I also did a very informal little survey of the people in the North Row that I know had been there and had been asked to move, and I heard back from two, and including myself. Neither one of them was happy with their placement, and if given the opportunity, they would prefer to go back to the North Row if they could. So I think it behooves the committee to really take a look at this option and really consider implementing this plan. I think it's a great plan.
All right. Thank you. Okay, I think seeing there's no further public input, we will move on to new business. And so we'll continue the discussion of the market strategic plan update. And I'm going to turn this over to Natalie for a presentation or comment.
Thanks, Paris. The board may recall that over the past about year and a half, we've been surveying patrons, community groups, and vendors. We had a survey in January of 2016. We received 300 responses, and those results were shared with the board in February 2016. In March of 2017, we had a special meeting of the Market at the Square Advisory Board, joined by a facilitator, Deborah Kavanaugh Grant of New Leaf Consulting, and she was here to assist with the review of the current Market at the Square mission statement and goals. At that meeting, the advisory board members affirmed the Market's mission, and they proceeded to refine the 10 goals from the 2011 strategic plan, and those 10 goals were reviewed, and from that created 7 new draft priorities. At the March 17th meeting, staff asked that the advisory board review the 7 draft priorities, and then at the April 28th meeting of last year, those 7 priorities were affirmed, and the 7 priorities are listed in the new business as well as in the attachment. So as a final step in the strategic plan update process, the advisory board drafted a series of initiatives to supplement those 7 priorities. Your attachment is an updated strategic plan for review. It includes the mission, which has been affirmed, the 7 priorities, which have been affirmed, and then the initiatives that were discussed as means to work towards achieving is a strong word, but work towards those 7 priorities.
Okay.
And
Oh, no, go ahead. Here we go.
that's all the presentation.
Okay. So seeing that we've discussed and affirmed the mission and the priorities, we can move forward with affirming the initiatives or the updates, which are the actual bulleted pointed items under each of the priorities. So I motion to approve the update. Is there a second?
Do we get discussion?
Yes, so if you, yeah, in order to discuss, we'll have to have a second, then we can go in discussion from there.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, so just another reminder that during the discussion of a motion, make sure each member speaks only once until all members have had the opportunity to speak. So, and the discussion and debate is up for a group as a whole to participate in and not an argument between a couple of members. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand and then I will approve you to continue. So we can begin discussion.
I have one quick question. Are we allowed to participate in this? Because last time I was criticized for having left, and I thought we weren't allowed to participate. So if we're not allowed to participate, I will leave because there's no sense to be here.
Right, so this portion of the meeting is for board members to discuss. So you're more than welcome to stay to observe, but you would not be part of the discussion.
They can't comment? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll have a great day.
Okay.
Paris, is the motion to approve these?
Right now, we're, if you want to discuss the different points, and then, or we could go into discussion, or then we can move on to a vote at a later point.
Okay, so what's the motion, sorry? I missed the.
Well, we went into discussion now, so,
Okay.
yeah, so we went, we motioned and approved to go into discussion.
Oh, gotcha, I thought you was just proving the whole thing. I thought, wait a minute.
No, we're in
Okay.
discussion time, people.
That was quick. Why do we need this meeting? No.
Yeah. Okay, so would anyone like to speak on any of the priorities, the bulleted points under each of these priorities? Yes, Sam.
Sorry, your blind side there. On priority 4, something got lost here in I don't know, somewhere. Because I had this sheet, we start at increased collaboration and coordination with regional farmers markets. And bullet point 2 is conduct an annual post-harvest recap with the market at the Square Advisory Board to review vendor categories and products. And somehow I didn't make it on there. I've got it here in print, so.
Oh, something that you took notes on?
Well, no, I mean, this was one of the handouts
Oh.
at one of the meetings, because we approved this bullet point, and it never made it, because the one meeting we was gonna have that got canceled, I had said something to Natalie, this never made it on there. And we had done approved this, right, these two here, and I don't see them back on here. Because like I say, this was
I don't-
handed out in a meeting.
My understanding is that the initiatives have never actually been affirmed yet, so it's probably just part of some notes. Do you want to comment on that?
Sure. Was it possible that it got moved to another priority?
It was 4.
Or,
No, the bullet points underneath called initiatives. The initiative that you're referring to, Stan, is it possible
I just looked
that?
at 4 because.
Which one, repeat the initiative.
Then, well, it was goal 4, but it said initiatives, increase collaboration and coordination with regional farmers markets, and then conduct an annual post-market recap with the Market at the Square Advisory Board to review vendor categories and products. Because I know we did a lot of discussion on that.
so I think what Natalie was saying is, did we have to
Move it in another
to a-
priority, and
yeah.
I haven't looked, I just,
Okay.
I remember at that meeting, I had all 7 of the priorities out, and I was trying to write down each of them. And then when there was a comment about perhaps moving that initiative, that it was more relevant under a different priority, I was trying to.
okay,
make
then
those
Robert
notes
found it
earlier.
on 7,
Okay.
but it needs kind of reworded a little bit there.
So currently that bullet point.
Initiative, yeah, bullet point 2.
Yep, moved to 7, and it says engage the market at the Square Advisory Board in the end of season review process and in the development of the annual report. And what were the other additions you wanted to that?
Just review vendor categories and products, because I think that's critical as a producer, or as a vendor. Because, I mean, the gentleman that's the craft vendor, I don't know what he does, but if we see a season where there's 5 things what he does, that's too many. So I would think we would want to reduce that, or look at it, not reduce it, but just maybe look at it. You see where I'm going? Because,
Probably the quantity then,
Pardon?
review vendor,
just review
Quantity?
vendor categories and products.
That's included in exchange ideas with vendors to curate the ideal market composition.
which is.
I don't know if I want to open up to vendors. I mean, this is a board thing, is what I'm talking about. I don't know what number was that on?
It's right above it.
7, right above it.
I think the board can just do that. We don't need to open it up.
Yeah, you can open up, it's like a herding cats.
You are vendors, though.
Yeah, but we're board member vendors.
Advisory board members.
Does this mean all the vendors out there? Or is it just us?
Well,
We review it. I mean, I don't, you don't want to, I mean, anyhow, that's just my opinion, but you don't want to open it up to other vendors.
Or you'll have 120 different answers
Exactly. It's just a way.
for however many vendors you have.
Okay, so do you want to say exchange ideas with board members?
Advisory members, because we're advisory, we're not board
Right,
members.
yeah, advisory board members?
Right. Just to review vendor categories and products, because that, and we did that this year, so we've already done it for this season, and we talked about this. I was just looking at my handouts, we had a whole, I think you printed off a whole array of stuff, you know. And I think we come up with, we need fish, we need, what Robert said, green beans and strawberries.
So that I have this correct, the first bullet point, exchange ideas with the market at the Square Advisory Board to review vendor category and products?
The first bullet point?
Yes. Just a moment, let me make sure I write this all down.
I'll try again. I wasn't listening.
Okay, bullet point 1, exchange ideas with the Market at the Square Advisory Board to review vendor categories and products.
I think the end of the season, because we gotta wait till the season's over with to do an accurate review.
Does it need to be that detailed in the initiatives, or just that it's stated that at
It don't have to be.
a certain
For my
point?
simple mind, it has to be, but that's, you know,
Well, the second bullet point actually encompasses what you're saying in the first. It's a very general statement,
okay, I get it, then that'll work.
just one bullet point.
So just the, engage the Market at the Square Advisory Board in the end of season review process and in the development of the annual report. Would that,
It's still, I
Be
gotta have, I
sufficient?
mean, I don't have to have it, it depends on everybody else, but I want the vendor categories and products in there somehow. Because that says what we're reviewing.
But at that point, we would list out every single thing that we would review, don't you think? Because then we would have to start listing everything unless we,
Well, she had a spreadsheet, that's pretty easy. She just printed that off and we looked at it and went over it. Because the way I read this, annual report is financial to me.
well, that's the, but then there's the first part that says the end of season review process, which is where you would review the vendor categories and products and everything else.
It doesn't quite say that though.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's-
Right,
it's-
I feel like if we're, I don't know, if you're,
The review process.
We're mincing over words,
I
but
think
I'm
it-
just, to me, it's our only way to, how do I say this, to look at saturation. Because you know, all know that I've really been harping on the saturation thing, so.
okay.
So what's agreed now?
Well, we could either keep it, I think it would make sense maybe just to keep it 2 bullet points then,
Okay,
and do the original.
exchange
Review and-
ideas with the Market at the Square Advisory Board to review vendor categories and products, period. Next bullet point, engage the Market at the Square Advisory Board in the end of season review process and in the development of the annual report.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that is 7. While we're on 7, does anybody else have any comments or suggestions for priority 7?
I have several
Okay,
that I wrote down.
okay.
So I have to have more frequent meetings, maybe bi-monthly meetings, because I feel like there's a lot of time in between, and our meetings are starting to run really long. So I was hoping we could have a more frequent meeting to cover stuff, so it's not forgotten. I have complete representation of the board, because right now we don't.
That's right, we still need a food truck person.
Right, we need food truck, community member.
I know the mayor.
Yeah, she might be able to help.
Just
We'll be
joking.
filling in some gaps.
Um,
Sometimes they're hard to fill.
Would that be under 7 then? I haven't read the other, refreshed on the other priorities.
Let's stick with this one right now.
Okay, okay.
And then we'll move on.
Then I have board provides input on market proposal policies, or, policies and procedures.
Can you say that one again?
Board provides input on policies and procedures for the market. Periodically revisiting the strategic plan, so, because this is taking a long time, 1.5 years, and like Natalie said last time, it's almost time to do another survey review, so maybe if we had it more as a living, breathing document instead of something that we,
What was it, 5 years, 6 years? How long has it been?
last one was, I think, 2011. But, so the other one that I have is to I'm proposing a self-reporting inventory to the market, to Natalie, so at the end of the day, somebody could say, would be voluntary, but you would provide inventory data that said, we brought 60 chard, we brought 30 homes, so that Natalie would know that there's an oversaturation of chard, the market, and that we don't need to look for any more chard vendors. But if she's saying, oh man, we're selling out of flowers or whatever from these vendors, then that would be data for her to.
Let's think about that. You're not talking financial, right?
No, I'm
Just
saying
product.
strictly
Okay.
product inventory. So you would.
So how would you do that?
I've talked to Natalie about this, and there is a reporting on the Manage My Market site where you would enter in that data.
I'm not gonna do that. Is there a sheet or something? I'm trying to think it simple.
No, because that data I think can be, and Natalie knows more in depth of the background than I do, but that data can be compiled for her.
Do you?
Help me on that, because
Is it a?
I know it's not gonna happen
The
in
system
that form.
that we use for the market application, Manage My Market, has a lot of behind-the-scenes opportunities to gather data and information. Sterling and I use it regularly, and we've shared some of that data with you also, where we can run reports, and it shows all of the products that are available, when they're available, who has it. There's a lot of functions of the software that we don't utilize. For example, the software allows you as a vendor to go in and track your sales. It allows you to go in there and create fields where you could report information about what you brought, what you sold. I think the maximum number of fields is 10, which could be prohibitive if you do bring a variety of different items. For example, tomatoes and then 10 different varieties of tomatoes. It might not be as easy for that. So we'd have to take a look at how to best use that. It's just very convenient for running reports and having that data available. And there's sorry, Suki, the one thing nice about Manage My Market is that nobody else can see anything on there. What you put in there can't be viewed by another vendor. The only people that can see it would be you, and in some instances we can see things on the back end, but it's more of your product listing, and if you need
What
help
good is it if
updating
you
your
can't see it? You.
well, I mean, like, if you make payments online, we can't see that
Right,
payment
okay.
information, but we can see that you made a payment and for how much, just not the secure information. Otherwise, we can see what products you bring.
You can
we
see that.
see
Okay.
all of that contact info, all the stuff we need in order to run the market. We can see that. I just wanted to make sure you knew that we couldn't see your credit card
You ain't gonna
details.
see that.
If you use the PayPal function to pay for your vendor space. Yeah.
Because I like that idea, because you could start to track.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think I told you, you can walk around the market at 11:45 and you can tell you can tell what you got too much of, because you can see what they're packing up, taking home.
Right.
But this is a more accurate way, I think. But I'm just trying to think about how to do this for myself. I mean, because I don't know. I mean, I guess I get my people entered. I don't think I'm going to enter because I know. But we couldn't just fill out a sheet of paper and say, okay, Natalie, here it is. You entered.
Then Natalie has like 30 different vendor sheets of paper that
Okay.
I don't think we want to give Natalie that much work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah, I know.
Take some responsibility, Stan.
She
My
wants
wife
job
always
security.
my wife always tells me that. Come on, boy.
That would be the easiest method after talking to Shay about putting this together. And the other nice thing is that it could be replicated at other farmers markets, because now there are over 600 markets that use Manage My Market across the US and Canada. So when we mentioned this to Manage My Market, that Shay had this idea, he was like, you know, that is a great idea. If there's other markets that are interested, and this is the kind of information that would be useful in understanding product mix and saturation.
At the end of the season, it'd be great, because it'd be something.
Right, but you could see it over time, or,
And you can see different trends,
Yeah.
like
right.
people are selling out of tomatoes in June, July, but in September you're taking 500 pounds home.
And so as a vendor, it could be useful, maybe you already track these things and that's great, but maybe there's some vendors that don't have this type of technology. And so they could be better at bringing things, not bringing too much, having enough, knowing those types of details, if that's of interest to them in future seasons.
But if we don't get I won't say majority, but a few people doing it, it's not gonna mean nothing. True. So,
It would be definitely something we would have to push out and push the importance of it. And then, I
Shay,
mean, for me, I think if somebody, you know, if you don't want to track your inventory, then you can't go to Natalie and say, don't bring any more meat vendors because I don't, you know, because I'm not
I
selling
track
my
my
stuff.
meat, it's not.
Right, I know, but I'm saying for the market, to have that proof, to be able to fall back and provide to her, to have that door open of communication, and the more people we can get involved, the more of a big picture we'll have of what's actually going on and what's needed at the market, instead of just shooting in the dark. And then Natalie has data that she can rely on whenever people contact her and say, I really want to come and sell tomatoes, and she's like, well, just so you know, you can't come, and here's why. People are bringing thousands of pounds of tomatoes back with them.
So then what's your idea to engage folks? Or what's to get them to do this?
We've got to talk to them. We could send out emails to stress the importance, or say this is how we're going to start forming, how we're start forming policy
Trends.
to bring in new vendors, and how we can limit different, I don't want to use the term competition, but oversaturation at the market. We need to talk about it at the annual meeting in the winter, those kinds of things.
This would all be new data. From my understanding, there's not markets that have this type of information available. You know, it would take a season for us to see even what we have and how best to use it. I can't give you a comparison of this happening in another place.
No.
This is kind of, I don't want to say like cutting edge technology, but there's nothing else that I know of like that from my farmers market manager circles.
But the old saying, you lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I'm trying to figure out how to make the farmers do this, because I'm a farmer, so I can, and I want to do it, so I will make an effort to do it. But I'm only one. You got how many vendors you got there, so I'm trying to think of a way, maybe to First Market or something, you hand out a little postcard that's got the links on that they can do, that they know what they got to do, and the importance of it. 'Cause some people don't even have email. I won't mention no names, but so, because I'd like to see this happen, but if only 3 people do it, it don't matter.
But then that's another thing, if Natalie's getting people complaining, she can say, you need to voice your complaints via
That's
your
it.
inventory. Otherwise,
That's a good point.
you've got no legs to stand
At least there's a process in place,
Yeah.
and if you don't take advantage of it, that's on you.
Well, and that's it engages the vendor, if you word it right. I still think you need a little postcard. I'm on the
I
postcard.
Which
think,
actually-
like, a postcard, and then you, or the staff go around, hand them all out, explain it all, and that might have to be done a
And this-
couple times a
But
month.
Well, and I
engages
think
people.
too that if there's vendor support at the beginning, then that has to start somewhere, and then it'll build as
Mhm.
well. So if you guys are for it and start it, and then you get the ball rolling and
I'm not
continue
well
that.
liked, but we'll go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm
I know.
I apologize, I have to go to another meeting, but my comment on the strategic plan is I think the 7 priorities are excellent and the bullet points cover just about everything we need. I think your suggestions are good. I would caution against putting so much detail under these bullet points in terms of when to meet and how to track, specifics of tracking, because that could change depending on the composition of the board and from year to year. So I would put those in a separate like implementation plan, but not necessarily add them to all. You're going to end up with a bunch of bullet points and things. The top priorities will get lost and all that. So I would say stuff like that Shay's suggesting, that's how you achieve these goals, and that could be an implementation plan. But I'd hesitate to put all that stuff into this.
Would some of those be more geared towards bylaws or part of the ordinance or makeup of the advisory board, like that when it meets and the composition?
If that's specified in, the composition, and I'm not sure if the number of times it meets is specified in the ordinance, but it's something we could look at. But I just wouldn't.
I think that's in that I think would be a change in the.
I know the composition is in there, so the implementation part I would just keep separate, and that's a living, breathing document, and it's going to change from year to year, even month to month as you try things out. So that would just be my recommendation.
Real quick before you leave, I was going to run the idea on goal number 5. It's I just want to hear your opinion. Consider the future growth of the market, ensure that it remains consistent with the market's mission. How would we want to address Wes and Leslie's and John's concerns underneath that goal? Maybe put something in there. I just wanted to get your opinion before you leave.
At this point,
not for tonight, obviously, but for future.
Yeah, something you can look at. Yeah, this
I don't mean to catch you short there, but
proposal that we got today, you'd have to look at it and think about it. But yeah, something to think about for the future.
Okay.
But this is general enough that it can fit in here.
thanks.
I should have asked before. Are you going to continue to join us at the advisory board meetings, or how?
I will be appointing a city council member to replace me.
She told me she couldn't last week.
I might just come because I enjoy it. No, there'll be another city council member we'll be reviewing all the boards and commissions and asking council members, what they prefer to do. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Going to need it.
Watch your back.
So,
See you at the market.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just kind of going off what Diane said, I did look through the strategic plan, the last one from 2011, and I did notice that there was an implementation strategy, and there's brainstorming questions and responses in here. Are those also things that we are going to be doing with this strategic plan?
I think was that from the focus groups and the meetings? They had large, like town hall style meetings and focus groups, if I remember correctly from my predecessor, to gather information and to provide input into creating the strategic plan.
Okay.
I believe they worked with the planning division of community development to put the strategic plan together and the implementation matrix. And from what I've gathered, the implementation matrix was hard to understand, that it referred to lots of objectives like 2.3, see also 4.2,
Okay.
and that it was hard to, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Figure out.
It wasn't as practically laid out as, here is the market's mission, here are our priorities, here are some ways that we can work towards those, and it's clearly, like you could print it out on a giant piece of paper and share it with everyone, where the implementation matrix was lots of bookmarks and referrals and having to go back and forth, and so,
Okay, yeah, this just says it's from a stakeholder meeting,
yeah.
group brainstorming questions and responses, and then,
It was from those meetings that
Okay.
this advisory board was created.
Okay.
I don't think that the advisory board, yeah, that was one of the ideas that came out of that. So those meetings and is what made this happen. And so now we're here.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have a suggestion, if I am allowed to make a suggestion.
Of course.
Shay, to your comments on number 7 about meetings,
Yeah.
about representation,
Yeah.
about providing input, and those 3 things, there is the board member duties, roles, and responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the strategic plan. The strategic plan, I think, is, I believe, should remain our goals and our overarching mission,
Okay.
things to make the market a long-term sustainable program in the community. I believe that some of the items that you suggested would be additions to or potential rewords for the duties and the roles and the responsibilities of the advisory board. Those are more of administrative tasks and let you know what you
Okay.
are capable of doing within the ordinance.
Yeah, my brain sometimes
No.
intertwines them, and
I didn't even hear them. Which one was them? Which one?
Oh,
No.
that's what,
No, I know that, but I don't
When I
remember
was
which.
saying, like, we should have more meetings to cover some of this, you know.
How's that in our
those are
responsibilities?
under board member duties, roles, and responsibilities. That's not in the strategic plan.
Just stating that information, like when we're gonna meet, how often,
Gotcha,
like
gotcha.
that goes in that document, not the strategic plan document.
Gotcha.
Like it talks about terms and it talks about what your roles are, what you are responsible for, and administration of the board. So that could be a recommendation that you could make for
Okay.
updating that.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, yeah,
How
they
about-
just intertwine.
Then where does the more representation fall in?
That would be a change to the ordinance. Anybody can come at any time,
No, I know, but
and they can engage the board like today, and they can stay, and you can engage them if you have a question. You can motion to the chair and say, I would like to ask someone a question, and they could come up and you could ask. But if you want to add more members, nameplates sit at the table, it would have to be a change to the ordinance, and the city council would make that change,
So how
not
do-
staff or not this board.
can I ask how we do that? Because you know, that's been one of my questions.
It has to go to city council, and I mean, Diane has been on the board, and now she's going to be mayor, and she makes all the appointments for the board. Well, she will when she is.
So in this calendar year, I mean, I know we got a lot to do today, but can we request that? Because we need a food truck person, because they're a big part of the market now. And they need to be part of these decisions. I think we got every category but those guys.
But haven't you tried to get some? Buddy from a food
That's
truck?
just-
And we've had someone come ad hoc. The only thing they wouldn't be able to do is say aye or nay if you were to vote.
But you see what happened there with John and Leslie. Once they can't have a part of it, they're gone. So this person
But
would have to
Stan,
have
they
a
could
part
have, you could have, if you wanted them to be engaged in conversation, requested to the chair, I would like to ask Leslie a question, and you could have motioned for that.
They didn't stay. So I'm just telling you,
I can't
if we got
control
somebody,
that.
and I don't want to beat this dead horse, but I'd like to see somebody with a food truck. And I'm not saying we're gonna do it tonight, but start that process this year. Because I got these little goals, my own goals, things that we haven't done, and that was one of them.
I mean, I think,
Do we already have an open position though for?
We have multiple open positions on the board. We don't have a city, someone from this, an Urbana resident. Our representation as of the Urbana resident, she resigned after the last meeting. We don't have a community group representative. We do have an arts and crafts representative, but I know Brian's had some other obligations. So we have 3 open seats, and now this was Diane's last meeting, so now we have.
She's filling in.
But we don't know who will I mean, it's all her appointment. They're also, we also need to note that Shay's term expires in June, Ken's term expires in June, and Diane's term would have expired in June, but she's taking on a new role and then appointing someone else. So you would need to let the mayor's office know if you want reappointed, or if you would like to
I remember getting one of those letters.
step down and someone else come in. You know, those are all things to consider.
But do we as advisory board maybe, I mean, it'd be drafted by one of you guys, but come up with something that we just hand it to one of the city people and that we would like more representation on our council? This other one by the food trucks, is that, I mean, I don't know how the process works.
I would have to ask Libby Tyler, the
Okay,
director.
but I mean, you know what I'm saying.
She had to go to another meeting, otherwise she would answer it right now if she were here.
Because, you know, 5 years ago, there was Friar Tuck. Now there's 5. So that's pretty sizable income, I mean, percentage-wise.
There you're also looking at saturation too,
Well,
for them poor guys.
could be. I mean, I think it's a different product mix. I think Natalie's pretty aware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to speak for you, I guess, but, you know, if you had everybody making pizza, that probably wouldn't suit Dave. I mean, you know, so I think you've been pretty aware of who you let in. But yeah, I mean, that's an issue too. Anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse. But anyway.
Okay, is there any other discussion on any of the other priorities?
Yeah, you know, what I brought up to Diane, I'd like to see what those folks, what John and Leslie had put in here somewhere. I thought 5, just browsing through it real quick. Because I don't think we've ever really thought about that, what the market should look like. I think they had some good points, some I don't agree with. But I mean, just to sit down and say,
So what is this statement that you're suggesting that we
I
add?
don't know. That we, help me guys, just don't sit over there. That we strategic, or not, we look at the market footprint, or I don't know. Help me, somebody.
I mean, I don't know if that's more of an implementation
I think
strategy, like, if we're talking about the market, if we're talking about market mix, but I do, yeah, as far as having a policy, yes, that goes with, it probably goes with engage with Market of the Square Board at the end of the season, review process, and development of annual report. And I guess that would be coming up with policy and procedure as far as what to do with moves. But that would be an implementation.
Okay, that's fine. I just,
But yeah, I don't know if we're coming up with implementation points.
No. Yeah, today we need to definitely focus on the initiatives.
Right, not today, but are we ever coming up with implementation points is my question.
I think that's something that definitely needs to be addressed.
Okay.
So we can look at adding that to an agenda.
I just don't want them to leave feeling it fell on deaf ears. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So did you just add a bullet point, or did you?
I'm just making notes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, don't. I'm just making
I just want to make
implementation
sure I'm making the right,
No, we did not add a bullet point to anything yet.
because there could, I mean, at the end of the day, there could be the opportunity that you affirm this strategic plan update with what you have amended today. So I want to make sure I have all of the correct
Exactly.
notes.
So, okay. So only we've changed so far is 7.
Yes.
Oh, correct. So how about this? Let's start with number 1.
That sounds good.
Does everybody like the different, the layout of the priorities, how they're numbered and how the bullet points are? I mean, with our first one, encourage prepared food vendors to source local ingredients. Like, do we want that to be the first bullet point, or would we rather have promote a healthier community by offering sustainably and organically raised produce and products? You know, as the first thing that somebody sees.
Yeah, you got a good point there.
You know, I don't know. I don't know if it's super important, but it seems like,
Well, I don't think they're in order of importance.
Right, I
So,
think you're right.
Yeah.
They're in the order in which they were received on
We
my
came up with
paper.
that. So I guess that's my question is, did we want to reorder anything by importance for the people that are looking at our strategic plan?
I could swap them around, but that's just me.
I don't know, because I feel like if we do that, we're gonna have to go through this process of putting everything in order of importance.
I don't see where that'll make much difference.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's gonna go through and read it, they're gonna read the whole thing
Yeah.
anyway, otherwise they're just gonna toss it to the side.
Yeah,
You got a point, me.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're
So
gonna
how
read
about
it,
we
they're
just
gonna read
look at the content of these bullet points?
Okay.
Is there anything that you want to add or change?
Looks good to me.
Well, just, go ahead.
I think number one's fine with me.
Do you
Frank?
want to do a roll call for each one?
I was thinking to do
One by
that,
one?
yeah.
Just a suggestion.
No, I was just about to do that. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna go one by one, and then we'll take a vote, and we'll do it by roll call. So Suki will say each person's name, and then if you are in favor, then you'll say aye. If not, you'll say nay. So any other discussion on priority 1? Okay. So Suki, would you like to do it?
Ms. Balderona,
Aye.
Ms. Balahi,
Aye.
Mr. Kleiss,
Aye.
Ms. Merlin is left, Mr. Miles,
Aye.
Mr. Shetty,
All right.
and that's it.
Is that everyone? Okay, so key priority number 1 and its initiatives are approved and affirmed. Moving on to number 2. Any discussion, suggestions, comments? Okay. Anyone? All right, we'll move on. Suki, would you like to do roll call?
Sure. Ms. Balderona,
Aye.
Ms. Balahi, Mr. Kleiss,
Aye.
Ms. Merlin, absent, Mr. Miles,
Aye.
Mr. Shetty.
All right.
Okay. Priority number 3, the initiatives under that. Any discussion, suggestions, or comments on that one?
So how is bullet point 2, 3, and 4 not implementation strategies? The first one to me seems like a broad enough like thing, but 2, 3, and 4 seem like they would be implementation strategies, right?
The bullet points are implementation strategies, right? The 3 is the priority, the bold print, and then the bullet points are the,
Initiatives.
the initiatives, sorry.
I was gonna say, no way.
Natalie,
So
no,
long
don't
day.
go back. Don't go back.
Sorry.
I was like, that's a whole other can of worms.
Just listening.
This is why I'm not supposed to talk anymore.
Right, that's answering how we're gonna do the thing. Is that?
Okay. So, does everyone want to just take it down to the first bullet point?
Well, let's just figure out a different wording. I get my head wrapped around
I mean, 4 could be, I guess, a left, because that still asks the question.
Yeah.
But 2 and 3 are definitely like, here's the thing that we're gonna do to meet this need.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, because that, yeah. Okay, so. Remove middle 2, keep the first and the last?
Well, I think the food sampling thing needs to be in there somehow. How would you word it?
Well, I think you're right, though. It's kind of goes back to the other bullet point where it's how we're going to make that happen, the actual implementation of the overall goal.
Yeah, I mean, offering samples is how we're gonna educate consumers about high quality
Mhm.
food and its source.
And preparing it.
And preparing and preserving.
Mhm. Do you have any comments on this?
I don't know if using the word engage it or collaborate. Education is a really big word, and we usually rely on and depend on other entities to help us in the implementation of it. So we also want to make sure that these initiatives are things that we can keep track of, I think, and measure in some way. I mean, some are pretty open-ended. Like,
No.
we'll always be educating, that's enough.
Yeah.
I'm dropping everything left and right here.
But I think you're right. I think adding something that says collaborating with local farms and I don't know. Who are all the sponsors of like Sprouts? Like collaborating with, we do collaborate with local farms, but we also, for a program for kids, we do a lot of work with other community businesses. Is it community businesses? So collaborating with local farms and community businesses to offer linkage in nutrition programming for community members. Whoa.
All right, so first bullet point is okay. Educate consumers about
Mhm.
high-quality food
Okay.
and its source.
Good there.
Okay. And then educate customers on how to prepare and preserve seasonal and local food. Do you want it to be consumers or customers?
I like the word consumer.
Okay. I'm going to change that. So it's educate consumers on how to prepare and preserve seasonal and local food. So what we're left with are farm linkage and nutrition programming, which I think goes beyond children when you offer samples of food sourced by vendors. That's farm linkage and nutrition for anybody eating that. They are meeting the farmer, they are tasting something, and hopefully they'll buy it, take it home, and eat it. So maybe engage with the community to expand access to local farm products.
But can we tack it on to the first one? Educate consumers about high quality food and its source by engaging with local community businesses? I don't know that businesses is the right word, because there's like,
You could say community groups and businesses.
yeah, because I'm thinking like the food bank, for example.
They probably aren't a business, they're like a 501 nonprofit, 501c3.
We need to go back to the mission statement of this whole thing, and maybe you could draw on what to say on that. Because you want to stick with the mission statement.
I don't think that helps.
No, yeah, because this is digging deeper. So, educate consumers about high-quality food and its source by engaging with community groups and businesses to expand access.
By having farmers and having collaboration between farmers and community blah, 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 whatever we want to put. I'm not-
Who are the people that you're targeting for engaging with? Who do you want to engage with?
We're engaging with our consumers.
Well, no, we're educating consumers by engaging with who?
Okay, yeah. Well, we're collaborating with other local businesses, right? There's
So do we want
And
to change
community groups.
the word from engage to collaborate?
yeah, for sure.
What did you just do?
Because we're working with them. We're changing engage to.
So educate consumers about high quality food and its source by collaborating with. As far as we got.
Because the rest is.
I came up with a phrase or a
Okay.
sentence, if I may add.
Mhm.
Connect the community with producers through farm linkage and nutrition outreach opportunities.
I like it.
That's beautiful.
Much
Okay.
better than the
What do you think about it?
Bonnet.
that I had, yeah.
So change the
Promoting.
the first bullet point to that, or were you
I think it's an
adding it to
additional.
that?
I think you have the first one, educate consumers about high quality food and its source, period.
Okay.
Next one will be educate consumers on how to prepare and preserve seasonal and local food.
Okay.
And then the next one will be
Mhm.
connect the community with producers through farm linkage and nutrition outreach opportunities.
Yeah, that's really good.
Then one of the,
Initiative.
what is the word, the other I word?
Implementation.
One of the ways to implement that
Yeah.
is to collaborate with places like the food bank and the WIC program to bring the market and the people into our families' homes, and make it
Farm-
more accessible.
Farm linkage and. Sorry.
Nutrition outreach opportunities. Okay, so you want me to read it off before you read it?
Yeah, because
read it
then I'll
off?
have to read it all over again.
All right.
Change stuff.
That's-
Okay,
that's
so
better.
the community.
Initiative 1, educate consumers about high quality food and its source.
Okay.
Second bullet point, educate consumers on how to prepare and preserve seasonal and local food. Third and final point, connect the community with producers through farm linkage and nutrition outreach opportunities.
Bam. It's beautiful, Natalie.
Or she gets paid the big bucks.
I'm just gonna read it
The
from
small
yours
bucks.
instead of trying to read. Okay. So are we ready to vote on this? I'm gonna read it. If we are, then I'm gonna read each one and then go into the vote. Okay. So for priority number 3, our 3 bullet points are educate consumers about high quality food and its source. Bullet point number 2, educate consumers on how to prepare and preserve seasonal and local food. And bullet point number 3, connect the community with producers through farm linkage and nutrition outreach opportunities. Okay, Suki, can you read roll call, please?
Ms. Balderota,
Aye.
Ms. Balahi,
Aye.
Mr. Kleiss,
Aye.
Mr. Miles,
Yes, yeah, aye.
Mr. Shetty.
Aye.
Okay, so priority number 3 is approved and affirmed.
Oh, you just give birth on that one.
What?
I felt like I just gave birth on that one.
Oh.
Okay, number 4. Give you a second to look over it. Okay, is there any suggestions or changes to priority number 4?
That last bullet point, is that even,
That's an implementation.
Okay. Yeah.
I do have to admit, I squeezed that one in there.
The last one?
Yep,
This one was your idea?
yeah,
well, I don't want to beat you up, but I will.
I'm getting used to it.
It's
In a nice way, but it's pie in the sky.
I know,
I mean, it all makes me feel good.
yeah.
I don't think.
My reasoning for this comes from some similar programs at other markets that I learned about in other parts of the country that where they offered not a lot. It's not a lot of money, but it could be a grant where the vendor applies to the advisory board. That
Ooh,
they
I don't want that responsibility. Because they're gonna get money, and I don't want that responsibility. I don't want it, but go ahead.
Okay, that they apply to the board and they state, it's a form you fill out, that actually, there are some co-ops that have these similar things for
That's
farms.
different.
Or any vendor, in this case it would be more than just farmers, it would be any vendor at the market that might have an economic need, or they would like to come to market, but they need to maybe buy a NSF number 7 freezer in order to bring whatever it is that they need, and the health department says they got to have this freezer, and they've got $250, but they need maybe 250 more to make the purchase. So they would ask the advisory board, they would fill out the grant, and it would be on a case-by-case as-is basis. So it's not that it's like lots and lots of money, but if they're, I think back to last season when there were a couple of vendors that their refrigerators had been malfunctioning and no longer were they grandfathered in for public health, and so they had to invest in $1,000 refrigeration units in order to meet the health department needs. So perhaps they may not have the budget to cover it all, but they come and they ask. Where this pot of money comes from, I didn't have a plan for that one yet. That could potentially be a sponsor or a business or a bank or an insurance company or some other entity that would be willing to fund this. It could be a subcommittee of the advisory board. I saw a successful model of this happening in Wisconsin. That's where the idea came from. I know I've had a few vendors reach out to me and ask, is there any way that I could pay for part of the season now or part of it later, or I'm struggling but I want to be there. And so it's a variety of comments and opportunities that I've learned about is where that came from. I understand that it is probably best in as something that we would implement, not as an initiative, but it's not something that we had never talked about, and I thought that it would be a positive and helpful and beneficial way for the advisory board to help their peers, like
So how can we reword it?
Well, I don't want to go there.
I like the idea.
It's a slippery slope. How do you know who's in need? I mean, you don't,
Well,
you got
there-
to establish a vendor that maybe I
it
had
also
replaced something that cost me $100,000. I go to the bank just to get it.
right.
So are you
But
going to
I
give me
don't
that
think
money?
these aren't for big items. These are for small things. It could be a new farm that is just starting, and they come to us and they ask if they could have their first season comped, the fees to participate, and you really want them to come because they offer a product that the market doesn't have.
Fees I can live with, but operating stuff, repairs and stuff I have a problem with, because fees is...
Well, we could come up with parameters on what the program.
There has to be parameters.
So they would fill out an application, and we would have, like I said, parameters on what is going to even be acceptable in the first place. So if it's a big tractor, of course, we're not gonna do that, but if it's, like she said,
Well, I got little things I
smaller.
need too.
I need a new truck.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
But-
There's always needs,
Right.
and I think it's a slippery slope, and I don't know if this group wants to be in the
That's gonna be
in the
tough.
business of giving out money. I think that's what grants are for, foundations and all that. You know, because I was in the foundation world and I see all this stuff coming, and everybody has a crying story. You know, it's a slippery slope.
Okay, so let's do this. Are we gonna consider this implementation then? And talk about it in a different meeting?
Can we find a way to reword it to,
Well, I feel like right now, we're not in agreement on even doing something like that.
well, that's what the vote is for, yay or nay, to agree on the priorities, right?
Right.
Well, one, we don't have a money source anyway, so it may
Not
be
yet,
something.
but if you look back to what your responsibilities are as an advisory board, one of the things on here that your role includes is
I know.
research and seek out additional funding, including donation grants and other support for the farmers market.
For the market, not for the vendors.
Well, which is part of the market.
No,
But-
it's not. No, it's not.
It's different.
It's
Afraid
different.
you're gonna run into everybody saying, well,
Yes.
they got that, well, why
Yes.
can't we get
Yes,
this?
yes. I just know
It's
the
an,
way
it
it's an
is.
application and it
It
can
don't
be
matter.
a process. But I just wanted to let you know where that came from.
I didn't even see that.
And
but
it's
I'm
been
just-
in there for about 8 months.
Well,
It's okay.
it just stuck out tonight to me then.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we're reviewing it again.
I think I won't have my feelings hurt if you want to remove it.
I love the idea of subsidizing their market fees, because that's a one-up that somebody new could use. But for stuff they need to business is a business. And
I would counter with subsidizing the market fees even because one could argue that vendors that have been there for a very long time, there's loyalty there, and the old time vendors, I could be wrong on this, so Natalie jump in, but a lot of the old time vendors take less time, like we know where our spots are, we don't need as much direction from
Handholding,
the market
yeah.
staff, whereas new vendors might. I could be wrong, Natalie, do you have any information on that?
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
if you're number 37, it's not that complicated. I mean, if you're honest, if you got your number.
Well, I just think that they're, yeah.
You've seen Border Wars.
I don't watch reality.
No. At the market in the morning.
Oh, no.
Ken has
I'm
seen it.
working.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm having
You've
staff
had
wars.
to settle a few.
Yeah.
Between 7 and 7:30 it gets a little crazy. I don't know, I just didn't, I thought it was a slippery slope. I don't want to, we're running out of time, but I don't know, reword it or just tabling it or.
I think we should table it and put it under implementation and bring it back again at another
Okay.
meeting.
So we're gonna remove it.
Let's remove it for today. Okay, any other changes or updates? If not, we can go into a vote. Okay, so for key priority number 4, we are going to remove the last bullet that states as a resource to vendors in need, establish a scholarship fund and emergency fund program. And we will keep all other bullets the same. Okay, Suki, can you call roll, please?
Ms. Balderona,
Aye.
Ms. Balahi,
Aye.
Mr. Kleiss,
Aye.
Mr. Miles,
Aye.
Mr. Shetty.
Aye.
Okay, key priority number 4 is affirmed. Number 5.
What does bullet point 3 mean?
Who's that?
That would be maybe potential collaboration with the Urbana Business Association, potential collaboration on coordinating indoor farmers market. It could be to, there could be opportunities that are presented to the market where we could expand hours or days, or I have no idea. It's
Just open
To
to new
seek-
opportunities.
not, it's not like we are actively seeking these things out, but as a whole, we would remain open to the potential of or the possibility that these things could be presented to us. It's so that if something came our way, we would be open to talking about it, deciding if that would be a good opportunity for us.
Okay.
As this market.
So if you didn't want to sound so eager, you could remove seek.
And just remain open.
Remain open
Yeah,
to.
that
Yeah.
helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it's not like we're actively
Thank
out
you,
there
that
like
helps.
looking to gobble up
Yeah.
stuff. We're just remaining open to.
Okay. Okay, any others? Okay, so I think we will go into a vote. And the change, the only change that we'll have for priority number 5 is bullet point number 3, remove seek, and just keep it as remain open to opportunities such as pop-up markets, new markets, and expanding Urbana's market at the square. Okay, Suki, can you call roll?
Ms. Balderona,
Aye.
Ms. Balahi,
Aye.
Mr. Kleiss,
Aye.
Mr. Miles,
Aye.
Mr. Shetty.
Aye.
Okay, priority number 5 is affirmed. Okay, number 6.
Bullet point 1. What is, incentivize vendors? Define that.
Well, we don't, I think the idea of this was that food trucks, bakers, prepared food, I would say just prepared food, source their local ingredients for
Then that needs
products.
to be worded in there. Because I read that as you growing tomatoes gotta source locally, well, you're sourcing locally. But still, the word incentivize, that means money to me, or,
So I might be able to provide some background on this. I remember one of our discussions in which we were also talking about the market handbook and wording that you wanted staff to add in regards to mobile food vendors, food trucks. And as a way for us to be able to fall back on something when we deny a truck from coming or waitlist them, and basically incentivize trucks that offer local ingredients in their cooking, giving them an opportunity to come, kind of first dibs at coming to market, and then waitlist the other trucks. So perhaps incentivize isn't the right word. Encourage is what we used, that's what we decided on in the handbook. So we updated the wording to say the market encourages this category of vendors to source ingredients locally, especially from Market at the Square growers and producers. My concern was that I wasn't sure how staff would police this, and we had a discussion about how we would be able to know whether or not the food trucks or the mobile food vendors were sourcing from you guys or from local vendors. And I believe that the conversation included kind of a self-policing method amongst yourself. So if there's a sign on one of the trucks that says they use Triple S Farm pepperoni, well, you would know if they were using it or not because you would know if they bought it from you. So it would kind of be a self-policing method. Otherwise, that would be a whole other program of the market that staff would have to take on that
I
would
don't see how
maybe
you
even
do
be like
that,
a
yeah.
third party
Yeah.
is what I've seen it done in other places, so.
Yeah, I don't see how.
So can we change the word incentivize to prioritize? So we're gonna
That's
have,
tough too, though.
we're gonna have priority to let vendors in. If a prepared food vendor is using local products, we're gonna prioritize them to come to the market in front of people who are just getting stuff.
So then do you
wherever.
need prepared foods in there somewhere?
We could, yeah.
I don't know, help me on that, because vendors is general.
Right. At the same time, though, we want to make sure that
Well, because this could actually not even necessarily for the food. I mean,
Yeah.
there's other products
Right,
that
that's
you
kinda
can
what I was
use to
thinking.
make, so it could be encouraging. I don't know.
Craft?
There's like
There's craft
yeah,
stuff.
like craft, like somebody's yarn can be used for somebody's
Well,
quilts.
there's
Or
soap
both.
people out there
Blankets.
and lotions and all that. Those
Yeah,
people.
like you and
Jackie.
you and Jackie.
Yeah.
She gets lavender, so.
Yeah, she gets her lavender, so I don't think we need to say prepared.
Okay.
Food,
right.
because
I think
it's-
vendors is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even with growers, I mean that it still falls in line with the market handbook in that where our definition of local is within Illinois. So
Okay.
growers are automatically, I guess, going to
That's-
be, but
yeah.
I guess we
Yeah.
are.
So prioritize is
That's what the discussion is. We want to say prioritize.
Well, I think you
Vendors.
would be saying give priority to vendors that source local ingredients for their
Sure.
products. If that's,
because that
How
goes
we
along
wanna do
more
it.
with Natalie's explanation of the whole thing. Of weighting them or not, or, you know.
what do you think about that?
Because incentivize just means money to me.
Yeah, I also remember us having the discussion and using the word incentive, and that could be that we put more posts out on social media or special signage provided by the market that says, I source
You can't do
local,
that.
but it's hard to police that
Yeah.
also.
That's up to us, ourselves to do that.
Right. So I think that it's important to encourage this, which is what the priority says, encourage, you know, so you don't necessarily want to say it again. But you could say highlight vendors that source local ingredients for their products as a way to nurture partnerships and collaboration. Highlight is pretty broad, and so part of the implementation could be, you know, showcase them on.
But then that
Media
don't help you
platforms
on, that don't help you where you was going with, give priority to somebody that does use a food truck, say, or,
But that is in the handbook, though. It states it in the
Okay.
handbook, and so every
not just for
vendor,
growers.
every vendor that signs off on this.
As you can
um,
tell, I haven't read
Well, you agreed to it.
it. I agree to a lot of things I haven't read.
Uh,
I got married, no, I just joked.
They call that fine print. You're not supposed to read.
Because like Shay said, it's just for us growers, we know it's got to be local and we got to grow our own and all this. It's just, it is what it is. But
It doesn't
it says
say
vendors.
for other. I guess under it says farmers. Product balancing. Products that include ingredients that are sourced locally, especially from growers and producers from the market at the square. That's under general application acceptance listed in order of priority. I think that was one of the other new things that we added this season was after that discussion. So there is a page in the handbook Listed in order of priority, starts with agriculture, product quality, product balancing, products that include ingredients that are sourced locally, especially from growers and producers from the market. So it's in the handbook. So I don't even know if that bullet point, I mean, I think it's important to emphasize partnerships and collaborations amongst vendors. I've seen some really great collaborations. I just learned of a new collaboration. But maybe that could be reworded, so.
Well, but the goal, to encourage a dynamic, high-quality growers market, that fits right in there with that. In my opinion, of a high-quality market is being true to what, is at the market. So I like it, it's in there. The incentivize just popped out at me. But you can leave it in there. I mean, that was just me.
So do we want to take it back to give priority to vendors?
I like that part, that word,
Okay.
but,
Okay.
because like with the lavender from Kent, that's huge, because she's spending more money. She'd go to wherever, I don't know.
They're online.
Right.
Mhm.
So she cares. I mean, we've got people working with us that, they could go buy meat someplace else in Walmart a lot cheaper, but they want to buy from us, So that means a lot to me as my business, but,
Okay.
and hopefully it helps them.
Okay.
Because like with Kent, he's been there for years, and people know it's from him. They're gonna hopefully want to buy it.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Give priority to vendors that source local ingredients for their products as a way to nurture partnerships and collaboration.
Okay. Any other suggestions or add-ons to these initiatives?
I feel like it's so bare. There's only 2 there, and it seems like a
We'll put
really
more
important-
pictures there.
It seems like such an important priority, but
what is then? I know I'm done. What does the second bullet point kind of mean?
that means that we're gonna bring in vendors. We're not just bringing in vendors. We want a nice balance so we don't have oversaturation. But we're gonna keep in mind what the vendors and
Gotcha.
customers
Okay.
need.
I
Yeah.
couldn't. Gotcha.
Okay. So if we don't have any other suggestions, I'm going to read the updated bullet point. Number 1, it's going to say give priority to vendors that source local ingredients for their products as a way to nurture partnerships and collaboration. Yes.
I hate to interrupt. but
Uh-huh.
Do we want to, since I think this is really important, do we want to think about another bullet point? I know Shay's comment is going in too. I don't know. Just, we've only got 25 minutes, but I don't have an
If
idea.
anybody has any
Well, I don't have an
ideas.
idea. I'm throwing out everybody else.
Right. I've been waiting. Do you have any idea?
No.
Nobody?
I mean, I don't right now. I don't.
Okay.
It just, yeah. Those are 2, for me, those are 2 really strong points, so I feel good about those. I just,
Because
And maybe it's
I've beat a dead horse on the growers market. We've talked about this whole growers market thing, and it's important,
Okay.
so.
Okay. All right. Nobody has any other suggestions?
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna go back to read that one more time. Bullet point number 1, give priority to vendors that source local ingredients for their products as a way to nurture partnerships and collaborations. And bullet point number 2 will remain the same. Suki, can you call roll, please?
Ms. Bolarota?
Aye.
Ms. Balahi?
Aye.
Mr. Kreis?
Aye.
Mr. Miles?
Aye.
Mr. Shetty?
Aye.
Okay, so priority number 6 is affirmed. All right, so back to number 7. I actually don't even, I think you had good notes on this one.
Yes.
Okay. 1 second, I'm gonna,
Sorry, I'm taking
Trying to write it on each
It's
page.
your packet, but.
There you go.
Okay, so what our conclusion was, the lot of the suggestions, like about meetings, filling in gaps for board members and that stuff was implementation type things. So the 2 bullet points that we discussed previously, exchange ideas with the Markets Advisory Board, review vendor categories and products. And then number 2, engage.
That's the end of the season. Somehow don't you want?
Well, that's the next one. And then the
Okay.
second one, engage the market at the Square Advisory Board in the
Gotcha.
end of season review process and in the development of annual report. Is there any other updates or changes to this?
Can
one?
you read the first bullet point again? I have it
Yeah.
written
Okay,
differently.
exchange ideas with the Market at the Squares Advisory Board to review vendor categories and products. There, I read that better the second time.
Does that,
To review vendor categories and products.
Yes.
the product, weekly product inventory thing we was talking about, that, is that implementation?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were gonna put that
Okay.
for another day. Okay.
Are we gonna do it though? Or how
Well,
do
we'll,
we do that?
we'll talk about it. I don't know. All those implementation things, I think that we can discuss at another meeting. Bring
Yeah,
all
but the
those
market
ideas.
starts in 6 days or 7 days or whatever.
I mean, is that something that? what do you-
I'd kinda like to see
when did
this
you want to
happen.
start
If we
it?
don't do it this year,
I was
Paris, it
writing
don't
notes
happen.
down after
Another.
If we don't do it this year, we
Okay.
lose another year.
So,
For the market inventory question, like gathering people's information for inventory, was that
Not
something you were gonna
dollars,
do?
but product, because I think this is an
Shay's
excellent,
suggestion?
yes.
Was that something that you were wanting to try to implement this year?
Because if we don't do it, start this year, we lose another year, season.
No, it'd be something that we would start this year. I got a little distracted a couple of times because in my head I was thinking about other ways to try to make this easier after I heard your
Right.
feedback. But I also, we need to be aware of staff time.
I was just joking.
No, I understand, but you know,
I tried.
for example, the SNAP program alone is 8 hours a week of staff time. And I'm 20 hours a week and he's 10 hours a week. So we have to
I
think
get
of
it.
that.
No, I get it.
Plus some of these other things that happen. And so what I was thinking, and we had kind of, Shay and Shirley and I kind of chatted about other ways to use technology to report this. But I don't know if I have the answer. For example, Google, there's spreadsheets in Google that you can see and I can see, and we can set up permissions so that other people can't see it, just you and I. And so the other night I was thinking about that actually, where in Manage My Market I can run a report for Bob and all of the products that you said you were going to bring to market this season and the number of varieties. I would copy that and I would put it into that Google spreadsheet. And I'd put tabs across the top, 1 tab for every single week. I mean, maybe it would be different layout, but I would copy and paste your product list into that spreadsheet. I would give only you rights to that spreadsheet. So Sterling and I would have to manage like 30-some spreadsheets, but we would have a listing of that, and only we would see it and the person that we were sharing that one sheet with. So you would get one. It would be a copy and paste of all the products that you set out to bring at market. Maybe you don't end up bringing all of them, so some of them are left blank. You'll write it in the notes section or something. Stan, on your application, you gave us a list of all the products that you bring and varieties. We copy and paste that and we put it in the Google spreadsheet. Send you a link to that and you update it. Same with you, Kent, copy and paste it, same with you. And it would be a link nobody else could see except for you and me, well, and him, you and me.
Does this achieve our goal then?
At the end of the season, I would have a spreadsheet that you completed for me, each of you, and whoever else that I hope decides to participate. And we would have them. It would be multiple ones. It's not like Manage My Market where I could run a report of all the tomatoes or something like that. But you know what? I'm sure that there is some very smart individual that could help me with some of these things.
I have a question. Would you be running it spreadsheets And not do Manage My Market because they don't have the capabilities yet?
Well, Manage My Market will only allow for 10 fields of information to be added. And Shay, you've got, what, 50?
At least, yeah, sure.
So it's 'cause
And
they're
Stan,
not
you have way
capable
more
yet.
than 10 items that you
But
bring.
not, but you don't, it'd just be tomatoes, wouldn't it? Or do you wanna,
But that's an interesting question because we have, I mean, Shay, when you came as your own farmer,
Mm-hmm.
you would bring a variety, you would bring tomatoes,
yeah.
but they weren't like anybody else's tomatoes because
Yeah.
they were specialty heirloom tomatoes.
Yeah, and I would argue that cherry tomatoes, like even at Blue Moon, it's cherry tomatoes, red tomatoes, and the heirlooms that we separated and keep different track of. So if we're selling out of cherry tomatoes every week and everybody's selling out of cherry tomatoes, then please bring another cherry tomato vendor.
So what are you saying, that we only
Getting
need,
super
we don't need that many categories?
No, I'm saying that that would be
You need
3
lots of
Have a lot of
categories.
categories.
So we would very quickly use up the 10 categories, and that's the max that's allowed in Manage My Market. So
Okay.
this is another option. It's going to take us a couple of days to get it going, but we will get it going, and we will send a link out. And the other thing is, not everybody comes on day one, so
sometimes.
that's the other thing. Do you want to do this just for growers? Do you want to do this for value added? Should we do a soft launch and only do growers this season? And then next season,
where we're
we'll
at.
see where we're at, see how
Tweak
it
it.
works, tweak it, and then open it up to the full market.
I like.
I like that idea.
Well, growers are your staple.
And that would be a more
The more
manageable
bitchy ones.
group.
There's no doubt about
Speak for
that.
yourself.
She didn't comment, but I can read her.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand what Stan is saying with, we really want to cultivate all this information this year, and I agree. However, engagement might be harder since we didn't announce it at the grower, at the meeting, the annual meeting.
But there was such a small segment of people that
Sure,
came to that.
absolutely. And it's such short notice that even if it was just a few of us, that there's going to be bugs. Whatever you do, there's going to be bugs that you're going to have to pick out. And the first year being small sounds great to me.
Right.
Right.
It's going to
Right.
be great for you too, because you're going to have to manage all that data.
But I still think a gilt-written 3x5 postcard saying this is what you need to do if you want to be part of the market's success.
I mean, Sterling and I have had multiple times last year to introduce new programs and educate the vendors on how it works, whether it's the new SNAP vouchers that we had instead of tokens, or, farm to food bank, or we're used to coming up with something, talking to someone, explaining it, and doing it over the first couple of market weeks will be fine. I don't even think it's that short of notice because
Okay.
it's voluntary.
Yeah.
If it was like, you have to give me all of your sales numbers, and if you don't, you can't participate, that would have been
Yeah.
something that we should have put in the handbook.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
That's a handbook thing. This is not any kind of trade secret or something that will put you at risk.
But, I can say, if you state it, it's gonna
Stan
help.
says you have to do this.
No, that it's gonna,
Stan's giving everyone a
it's gonna
good trip.
improve the market, because you're gonna know what products are there and what, so it's gonna manage them. It gives the advisory board, or whoever you wanna say, it gives them better information to be able to manage the market.
And then I give it to you, and then I engage you in the end of season review process and in
Right.
the development of the annual report.
How are you gonna keep it blind on that at that point? You'll have to combine it, I guess, somehow.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
we,
yeah.
we would combine it into one single document that has it so that
Okay.
that you can see it.
Okay, so we're gonna get that started then? Is that what everyone wants to do?
Mhm.
Is it? I
Yeah,
don't know
but
if that's
we
a
don't-
vote item though. We're not
No,
gonna
no,
put
no,
it on
that's-
here.
No, I just didn't wanna get it lost, because I know
Okay.
it's such a great idea, and I didn't
Okay.
know where it was at.
I do. Go ahead, Paris.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, just go ahead. I'm gonna
Okay.
ask.
Okay, I I would love to see something more broad on here, because right now it says we're engaged in end-of-season review process and the development of the annual report. I'd like to see some kind of like future ideas from Natalie at the beginning of the year, like what ideas are stirring in her head or things that
You
she'd
mean a
like to
visionary process?
for the next year, for the next season. So, like, she's making this new website, you know, anything that any big changes.
How do you make that a bullet point? I like that.
Engage, you know,
You've used engage
I think we
too
could
many
just-
times.
Yep, go for it.
What if I change my staff report? Or what, so every time we have a meeting, I give a staff report, but a lot of it's like, this is what has happened.
yeah.
And so there are other boards that I'm a part of as a board member instead of a staff liaison. One in particular is Visit Champaign County. I'm on the board of that, and their executive director sends out updates on a regular basis. I don't think it's every week, but it's about every other week with like things that staff are doing or places that they went to or programs or like ideas that they have that they want to engage the board on. So maybe something like that, or would you rather have more of like a sit down, like I report something in a different capacity? No one's ever asked me for this before, so.
I think both of those things are great. Maybe each time we have a meeting, like, here's what the staff is working towards is great, but I think something at the December, or I don't know when it is, January board meeting where you could say, okay, this year, you know, here were some things, like, we're gonna have trash cans at the market this year. We're working on getting a new website for the market this year. Like some bigger picture things that you're planning for the year. Because I know that there's usually things, but I think you're right. A lot of times we hear about them after the fact. But some of the ideas I think are super awesome, and I want to be talking about them with other vendors. Like, hey, did you know we're
What-
getting this new thing?
But don't you think, since you are on the Illinois market thing, whatever, that you see, or even the United States, you see what's going on, which we don't see?
Yeah.
So you can say, hey, you know, this person's, like you did with the Wisconsin group or whatever, but
Yeah.
anyway, that we threw out, but that's okay. But
I guess my,
you know what I'm saying, what Shay's saying is,
oh yes.
look, could we try this here?
I would like to know how best to communicate it and communicate these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I know throughout the season we have updates on things that are coming up that we didn't know about, like
Yeah.
you know, an event pops up or an opportunity pops up for a partnership and we grab it because it aligns with our mission or something like that. And so, but I've also gotten feedback from folks where I have said something or announced something or tried to communicate something and they're like, well, I had no idea. Well, I sent it in an email. Well, I don't read your emails.
Yeah.
Like, well, I can't call all 220 people.
No.
But so I want to know what method would be.
Well, I don't think we need to start
That's-
micromanaging everything that you do. That's my thing. So, I think if we just get an update at each meeting, I think that's fine. And that says, this is what we're looking to do. This is what we're working on. And then it could be both, like Shay said. And then we could add maybe in here, end of the season review process, future projects, and the development of the annual report. So it's kind of, because I think there's a lot of times that opportunities come up and you can develop new things, and we're not gonna wait for the board to hear about it or like micromanage that type of stuff. So
Yeah,
I don't want
but
to. I don't want to
still-
like hold her back from doing something because
No.
it wasn't
No, I
discussed
don't,
yet.
I don't,
No,
I
that's not
took
my
it as a
idea.
visionary thing.
Yeah.
Because I love doing that process, and you get
Mhm.
people talking, and one idea
Yeah.
comes off another idea, and, you know, to making the market better.
Yeah. So I think it's good that we then add it to your report, and then like maybe like I said, we could just put future projects in there, and then
Yeah.
Or something like
stuff,
that.
Yeah, Yeah, just bigger projects that you're.
Future projects and changes.
Mhm.
Would you want me to send emails? For a while I felt like I was bombarding you with like sharing things and attaching things, and then I kind of stopped for a little while because I wasn't getting any response from anyone. Not that it asked for a response, but I know for the board that I'm on, and the director sends these, she forwards things, she kind of collects it all and organizes it nicely in a bullet pointed email like, this came across and it applies to what we're doing, or we discussed this and here's an example. Staff is working on this. We have an opportunity for you to help out. Would you like to stop in on this day or help us distribute posters? We'll leave some for you, give them to your friends and family. Or that could be like an email. I send it on a Friday. If you want to respond, you can. If you don't have to. But it's in addition to, because we don't meet but 4 times a year.
I don't need those emails.
But then I also don't want to waste my time.
Right.
But,
Right.
but like Shay, or Paris said, we don't want to micromanage you. I mean, just do what you're gonna do.
I think, so
I'm
you're
getting,
asking for, you want
communication about it from all over the board, and so I've had a lot of interaction over the past couple of weeks in regards to me being the market director and my duties, roles, and responsibilities versus board member roles and responsibilities versus what's stated in the handbook.
Let me guess who those two people were.
No, not at all. I want to affirm that I'm in this role as the market director, and you're in this role as a vendor, and as well as that, as an advisory board member. And so there are some things that I do as the market director because I'm employed in this role, and I have administrative work that I need to do to make the market work, and it's best suited to the person in that role that doesn't have a conflict of interest or isn't, applying and accepted into it. But it also needs apparently to be more clear of, what that includes. So if sending updates would be helpful, I will send them. I don't feel like sending you an email every couple of weeks with a rundown of what's new and what's happening is micromanaging. And I have to check in every week with my supervisor, Libby, who is here, and I have it broken down by my job as your market director, and then I have another job at the city that's unrelated to the market called marketing coordinator, and that's for community development, so I'll run that down. I give my duties for Visit Champaign County and my duties for the Farmers Market Association. So I report on my kind of 4 roles. So I could very easily just add a few links. Because I'm always forwarded stuff from the Farmers Market Association. We have a policy person that we work with at the Illinois Stewardship Alliance that kind of gives you like what House bills are happening, how that might affect you, how it affects sampling, or cottage food, there's changes coming for that. I don't know.
You started it.
No. I feel like what my idea is being overshadowed by other communication you've received. And I don't know how to make it, how to explain what I want or what I'm asking that's different than what others have asked, I guess. Like, I think when so what I'm thinking is like, I know a couple years ago, for instance, we were talking about adding trash cans for the Market of the Square that was going to be provided by the city.
Mm-hmm.
Did that happen? Like, I feel like for me, it fell off and there was no closure or like follow up with it when it was something I was super excited about because I get so much feedback about it. And to have something at the beginning of the year where you say, man, we got a lot of feedback about trash cans, we're adding trash cans, so that it's something I could follow up with.
I forgot all about the hot topic of garbage.
Yeah, right. So this is an example. I'm not even discussing the day-to-day tasks that you have to do and decisions you have to make at last minute. It's just like that, or guys, and I did know that there was a website that we wanted to be made, but maybe we weren't all aware of it. Or, here are some big projects that we're doing and how we can follow up, and if there's some issue with the trash cans, could a board member help? Is there something that we can do? Those kinds of things where in 3 months when we met again, like, hey, how are those trash cans doing, Natalie?
They're supposed to arrive on May 2nd.
So this has been such a really long process with these trash cans.
Well, we get them,
So-
but we have to walk half a block to
Yeah.
fetch them and bring them back.
So just kind of updates on that kind of thing. Not necessarily, I'm not asking for your day-to-day drudgery things, if you've got, but I do kind of like the idea of getting emails where you say, guys, this bill is about to go in. If you're really passionate about it, I'm open to those emails. I like to see that kind of stuff, but I get Illinois Stewardship Alliance, all that thing, all those things. So it's more of like a future annual plan of.
Yeah.
So how do you want to incorporate that into this?
I think what did you say earlier?
Future projects?
You got 4 minutes.
So in the end of the season review process, future projects, and the development of the annual report.
Yeah, future projects, that sounds okay. I think that sounds fine.
Okay. Anybody else have
So
any?
read that back then.
Okay. Engage the Market at the Square Advisory Board in the end of season review process, future projects, and in the development of the annual report.
Okay, that was easy.
Okay.
There's a lot of discussion for 2 words.
Well, you gotta get the meaning. Words matter.
Okay.
Right, and I want to make sure
I don't want to
Natalie.
slack off.
I just want to make sure that, we're on the same page.
Okay, so.
No.
Thanks.
I hope you can read them.
I can. Okay, so do we have any other comments or changes before we go into a vote? Okay, so I am going to read the 2 updated bullet points. For priority number 7, we said exchange ideas with the Market at the Squares Advisory Board to review vendor categories and products. And bullet point number 2, engage the Market at the Square Advisory Board in the end of season review process, future projects, and in the development of the annual report.
Good.
Okay, Suki, can you roll call, please?
Ms. Balderota,
Aye.
Ms. Balahi,
Aye.
Mr. Kleiss,
Aye.
Mr. Miles,
Aye.
Mr. Shetty.
Aye.
Okay, so priority number 7 is affirmed. And the overall strategic plan is affirmed.
That was like a year and a half.
Okay, so I motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'd say.
Second, okay.
Will we
Meeting-
get a review or something of that? I mean,
One second. Meeting is adjourned at 4:58 PM.